Beto with Town Square Buzz, and welcome back to our interview with Matt Hilton, candidate for City Council at Large seat. Matt, welcome again.
Thank you, Angie.
As we continue our discussion, last segment you talked a little bit about how important preserving our quality of life here in McKinney is to you.
Right.
So what do you feel is the biggest issue we face in the next 5 to 10 years as a city?
But serving on the county planning board again, and going back to that, I think our infrastructure and building out where we are poised to go over the next 20 years. And if we don't focus on that now and get the infrastructure in place, meaning the roads, the sewer, the water, the power lines, everything that needs to be in place for the growing community that we're going to become. And I believe I heard the other day that once we build out, we will be the 3rd largest city in this area. And you know, with that taking place, we've really got to focus on that. And so I appreciate that question, because I think that has a lot to do with where our city will be. And again, whether we keep people happy with that quality of life that's here, or if they move off because transportation is horrible and we're stuck at red lights, and you know, and there are potholes and things of that nature, or that water isn't running in a certain part of the community, or you know, this, that, or the other. I think if we can plan for that and execute, not just plan and talk about it, but execute that plan, I think that will be a vital part.
So you mentioned transportation. What would you suggest that McKinney looks at doing to alleviate some of our transportation issues?
Well, for starters, we need to look at different ways of funding our road projects. You know, the state is not doing too well as a whole, and especially the Department of Transportation. So when we look at that, we've got to come up with seeking out other public-private partnerships that we can have. Now, I'm not a big advocate of tolls, because I think that is a special tax on those people who do use those roads. But I do see that as a way of possible funding, and so when we're looking at those things, we need to look at different ways of approaching. And I even think that we need to go out and look for those model cities that were maybe where we were, but now have grown. And what did they do? I'm not a proponent of recreating the wheel. I think we should go out and look for other models that have worked and haven't worked. And we can learn from both of those types of models to see where we need to go. And I think that will help that tremendously.
As we talk about transportation, give me your thoughts on bringing DART to McKinney.
It's a great question, Angie. And I feel like that until I know more about that, I'm not qualified really to make a response on that. I will say that we need to look at different ways of alleviating the congestion that is already happening in McKinney, whether it be by DART or some sort of light rail, or something needs to happen. And I understand that our 4A, 4B money that Plano uses for the DART is used by our EDC to help attract businesses and things. So when you're looking at that, you know, what are the options? Instead of giving up all that 4A, 4B money to bring DART up, what can we do? So I think looking at that and really being honest about it, and looking at it from an aspect of, if we don't utilize another form of transportation, what are we going to do?
As our roads get more and more congested.
That's right.
How do you feel? You mentioned briefly that we provide incentives sometimes for corporations to come to McKinney to stimulate our economic growth. How do you feel what would your stance be as a candidate for using public money to fund private enterprise?
It's another great question. You know, as far as there is an incentive that the EDC does use right now, and that is in conjunction with the city, the MISD, and the county. Is that, you know, when a corporation does come here on their inventory, so if it's a company that produces inventory, if they manufacture it here, and then once it's created, if they ship it off within 175 days, those three entities do not, it's an exemption on their inventory. So things of that nature, to where it's an incentive for the companies to come here to manufacture their product and then ship it off within a certain time period, a specified time period, I'm all for that.
Okay.
Now, as far as using money that is already there, like that 4A, 4B money, again, I think we need to really analyze that and look at it from a place of what is best for the community as a whole. And I know bringing commercial tax base to the community is a great way to not have to raise personal property taxes or our sales tax rate, you know, anything of that nature. But when we're looking at that 4A, 4B money, I really do think we need to focus on what will be in the overall plan for McKinney, what's going to be in the best interest of everyone.
Can you explain to our viewers, readers, a little bit more about the 4A, 4B monies so that they are understanding exactly what you're talking about?
Sure. 4A, 4B money is a 1 cent tax from the taxes that we pay. It is 1 cent that is retained by the MEDC to fund and give incentives to corporations that are brought to McKinney.
And they have stipulations around those
That's right,
projects that they are allowed to consider.
That's right.
Okay, that concludes this segment of Town Talk with Matt Hilton. I hope you'll join us again as we finalize our conversation with Matt. He is running for at-large city council seat. And don't forget, early voting begins May 2nd and runs through May 12th, and voting is May 14th.